Hey everybody, it's Emily from Life So Savory, and I'm back after a summer off of really not doing any live shows. So I've been doing live shows on the Brother Sews page once a month, and besides that, I have really just taken the summer to enjoy time with my family. So I'm excited to be back and to be doing regular live shows. So make sure you are tuning in on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. or sorry, 3 p.m. Eastern, because I am hoping I'm planning that this is going to be a regular thing again. So, and also for the first time, I'm live streaming on both Facebook, my Facebook group, and on YouTube for the first time. So say hi. Let me know that you're around. I'd love to know that you're watching, and I'm super excited about today's project. So if you saw yesterday on my page, I posted a tutorial on flat locking on my serger. And I've been committed this fall to try and learn some techniques that I have not previously experimented with. So flat locking is one of those. I tried it once or twice in the past, didn't have immediate success, so I pretty much just disregarded it. And I am going to try to get better at doing some of those things that I gave up on before. So I really have been focusing on flat locking this week, and I shared a lot of tips and tricks yesterday on lifesosavory.com, and you should check it out. And today I'm going to incorporate flat locking into a project. So on my post last week, I simply showed you how to do it, the machine settings, some tips, and I just did it on practice fabric. Well, today we're going to try to do it on a real project, and I'm going to use the women's raglan sweatshirt pattern, and we're going to try and flat lock those raglan sleeves on for a really cool feature that you can see. I've got some fun contrasting thread, and so that's my plan. So that is what our hope is, and I'm excited that you guys are here. So I see Kathy says hello from Kentucky. Patricia's here from Missouri. I know it's going to take a few weeks for all of you guys to know that I'm live again, because I really have taken the summer off. So hopefully we can get back in the groove and a rhythm now that the kids are back in school, and I am excited to sew live with you guys again. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And again, I'm live streaming on both Facebook and YouTube for the first time. So hopefully this is a good way to get out there and see what I'm doing. If you have questions, please ask. I'll try to keep my eye on the comments as I go, as well as scrolling through at the very end and answering some of those things that maybe I didn't see along the way. So I see Kathy says hi. Again, Susan. And it is nice. The kids are back in school. I'm excited. And if you are loving this, I would also love if you would click share and share it to your favorite sewing group or your own page. That is great for getting the word out there about what we're doing as well on today's show. So let me show you what we're going to be doing. Again, I'm using the women's raglan sweatshirt pattern, and the address for that is in the ticker on the bottom of this, but I'm also going to go ahead and just post that. If I post it here in the comments, I think it shows up everywhere. So let me just go ahead and post that in the comments. And there you guys can see that I've put the link to the pattern. So if it's easier for you guys to click there, it's a free pattern. Size extra small, I think, through extra, extra large. Today I'm going to be making the medium for myself, and it's going to be great. So I'm using this really pretty tie-dyed sweatshirt fleece, meaning it has a little bit of stretch one way and not really any stretch the other way. So the great thing about this pattern is I've made it with sweatshirt fleece that doesn't have a lot of stretch, as well as like sweater knit that has a lot of stretch. And I've used waffle, French terry. This pattern is very versatile because it's not fitted at all. It's very loose, and so it's great for so many different kinds of fabrics. So we're using the tie-dye sweatshirt fleece for the main, and this is a pretty light sweatshirt fleece. So we've got that. And then I was trying to, because sweatshirt fleece doesn't make great, necklines or cuffs or a band for the bottom. I was trying to think, what could I use for my neckline and for the cuffs, and I found a old t-shirt that my husband had given me that actually is a really good contrasting color to go together, and so that's what I'm going to be using today. So I carefully picked off the neckband, and we're going to be reusing that, sewing it into the sweatshirt, and then I've also cut the bottom band, and for this one I've just left it the width of the t-shirt, and in fact I just left the side seam sewn. So after we get the sweatshirt put together, I'm going to see if I can just fold this into a band and use it as is on the bottom of the sweatshirt, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a good size or not. So I'm just kind of experimenting with that. And then I also cut my cuffs from the t-shirt fabric as well. So we know that t-shirt fabric also isn't super stretchy, but it's going to be better than the sweatshirt fleece for cuffs, and I don't really care if they're like super tight or fitted. So we'll try that. So that's what we're going to be working on today. I'm excited you're here to join me, and we are going to be switching over. I'm going to switch over to my serger, and we're going to take a look at what I've got going here for flat locking. And we're going to, I set the machine up for the flat lock to start with because I wanted to show you exactly what I was doing with the flat locking stitch. And then I'm going to reset it to its normal settings and sew up the rest of the shirt. But because the flat lock, I feel like I needed a few test runs, I wanted to be able to do that without setting that up for you guys ahead of time, or with it already set up. So here's what I've done. So I've removed the right needle. And again, these are the settings that I detailed in my post yesterday. So you can go ahead and take a look at those if you're questioning how I set this up. So I started with the settings in my serger booklet, and then I've adjusted to get it what I think is a good setting. So here we have the stitch width on 5, which is the rolled hem, but it's great for this. I've got my flat lock / blind hem foot on here. And like I said, I've removed the right needle, and then I have the left needle threaded. On the side over here, we've just kept the original settings. So I have this one on 1, which is the basic setting, this one on 3, which is the basic setting as well. And then up on top, there's a range that the booklet, that the manual sort of suggests. And so this is what I played around with this morning, getting ready for this show to see what these settings are. So we're going to have the needle on 1. The upper looper is on 4, and the lower looper's on 7. Now, when my machine does not do a 2-thread flat lock, and I'm super excited, I'm going to be getting a new serger here in the next few months, and it does do a 2-thread flat lock. And I can tell you after playing around this week that I'm super excited about that. Because with the 3-thread, essentially the lower looper doesn't do anything, and in fact it kind of gets in the way. But let me show you how I have made it work, and you can make it work. It's just maybe a little more difficult than if I had a 2-thread, but we can totally do this. We are going to do it, and I'm excited to show you how. So I have my pattern, or my sweatshirt here, and I actually marked the front, and then I marked the front of the sleeve so that I knew I could start sewing correctly. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to sew with a flat lock the sleeves to the main body. And you know, on a raglan style shirt, how we will see those seams across the front and across the back shoulders. Okay, so here's the front of, this is the sleeve. Okay, and then here's the front of, oh no, that's the sleeve too. I do not want to sew 2 sleeves together. We'll have a disaster. Okay, let me find the front of a sweatshirt, And okay, so because I'm flat locking here, we are actually going to sew this different than normal, and we're going to sew with the right sides facing out. Okay, so I'm putting these, just back this up a little bit. Okay, I'm putting the sweatshirt together. So we're going to use these clips that I had to mark to just pin that or clip that. And then we're going to do the same a little bit down here. And you can see that normally we always sew right sides together. And right now I'm clipping the wrong sides together because we're simply going to sew it and then we're going to open up that seam with the flat lock. Okay. So if you're not familiar with the flat lock, you will in just a second see what I'm talking about and how awesome this is for a cool decorative stitch. So you can create the same thing with your cover stitch, but if you don't have a cover stitch, this is a great way to get more use out of your serger and have more options for using it. So this little guard, which guards against the blade, is adjustable. So you can make your flat lock wider or more narrow. And I've gone a little bit wider for today's flat lock because I want, to be able to see more of the stitches. So the presser foot is up. I'm going to slide this back until it's almost by the needle. And then you want to start with the turn dial lined up on top. Okay, so I want the line on the turn dial to be lined up with the mark on the serger. And then here are my 3 threads, 2 loopers and a needle. And this is what I've been working on, and to get that upper looper, because we have that tension really tight. So to make sure that it does what it's supposed to, I'm actually going to hold on to these threads for a little bit while I'm sewing. I'm also starting with a nice long tail. Okay, and those are helpful tips that I've discovered as I've been playing around with this. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to make sure that these edges are lined up. We're going to grab a hold of these threads and we're going to keep the edge of our fabric along this white guard here on my foot. Okay. Hi, Phyllis. I see you're checking in. Again, if you are just joining, we are live streaming for the first time, well, for my first time on both YouTube and Facebook. So I'm excited about adding that dimension to my live shows this fall. And I'm back after a summer of just enjoying time with my kids and not doing a lot of Facebook Lives. So we are back and sewing this arm to the body of the sweatshirt. Okay, and then, so just like before, when we finish with a long tail, I want to end with a long tail as well. So I'm going to turn that hand crank with my right hand so that it lines up top. I'm going to lift the presser foot. I'm going to take a good grip on these threads and try to pull them. And if they don't pull out, just go ahead and turn that hand crank one more time and that will release those threads. So you can see I'm pulling out a long tail. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And I have this cool, interesting seam here on my sweatshirt. Okay, so just give you a close-up look of what that looks like. All right, but now we want to open it up to see it in the flat lock stitch. Hi, Mary, I'm glad to be back. So the thing about the flat lock is that the needle actually will pull open, and then on the front, the seam should flatten. So can you see that? It's actually really cool. And I've got some fun pink nylon, like a stretchy nylon thread in the looper. So that is showing up on the front of my sweatshirt. Okay, so here is our seam. And now it's opened up on the front. It's nice and flat. Can you see that? It's pulled flat. Okay, and it looks cute because I put pink thread in there. And let's take a look at what that looks like on the back. So on the back, we have those threads that have opened up. It looks like a ladder stitch. And one of the fabrics goes in the front and one of them goes in the back. And the thing that you want to look at on the back is that the same one is on the back and the same one is to the front, because if it switches at all, then you'll have some weird bumps. But it looks like mine is all laid nicely. And then we're going to, if you're not going to be putting the ends of the serger in another seam, you would definitely want to tie those off. we are going to be, sewing the rest of this sweatshirt up. So I'm going to tie off this top one just to make sure, like I said, that lower looper in this 3 thread doesn't really serve a purpose, but if it does slide out, then the whole stitch can come out. So if you're having trouble with your threads not sticking and the seam coming undone, it's because that upper looper thread is lower looper thread is coming out. So you can tie those off like I just did to make it easier to work with while you're doing this. All right, so that was one side. Here's my sweatshirt. We're going to go ahead and keep sewing. And then, usually I like to sew the neckline with it open and I don't sew all the way around. But today I'm going to sew all the way around because I want to sew all these shoulder seams before I move on to the next step of this sweatshirt. So let's put some clips on here. So we're going to sew the 2 pieces to the front, and then we're going to go ahead and sew the 2 pieces to the back until we have the shirt in a circle. Okay, so I'm just double checking. Yep, that's sleeve to the front. And let's take a look here. So I'd love to know if any of you have worked or experimented with flatlocking on your machines. Have you had any success? Have you not had success? Like, do you feel it's been a failure? I shared a video on Instagram about my flatlocking experience, and someone had said, that they had problems with that looper thread coming out. And I absolutely did it first too, until I was holding it like I just did when I started that seam. And that really made a difference. So that is like a simple trick that you can do if your machine only does the 3 thread. Now, if you have a machine that does the 2 thread flat lock, you will not be experiencing the same issue because your machine sews the flat lock with only 2 threads and they both serve a purpose. So you don't have this sort of useless thread situation that I do going on. All right, so now at the end, like before, I'm going to turn that hand crank. I'm going to grab a hold of the bottom of this. I'm going to pull out a long tail. And then we're going to take a look at this flat lock seam here. And then we're going to open it up so that it's flat. So just a little tug, 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 tug. And then we have a cute open seam that not only serves a purpose, it's a seam, but it also is decorative. And then check your back and it's looking good. So there's the front of the sweatshirt. I'm too far, too close, but let's take a step back. All right, so here's the front of the sweatshirt with the 2 sleeves attached. So left sleeve, right sleeve, and the front here in the middle. So the next thing that we're going to do is go ahead and attach the back to the back sleeves. And it does take a hot second to get used to sewing on with the right sides of the fabric up. And then in a minute, we're going to switch to sewing with the right sides together again as we transition to sewing the rest of the seams. But for now, I'm sewing with the right sides up. So I'm going to start here on the back. We're going to slide it all the way under till it's back by the needle. Line up the shoulder with the back. I'm going to go ahead and hold on to these threads so they do what I want them to while I get started. And then try and sew at sort of a slow to medium consistent speed all the way down your seam. And you can also sew a flat lock on a flat piece of fabric. So I'm using it to join 2 pieces together, but you can also use it as like decorative stitch in the middle of the fabric by simply folding the fabric over and then fold the fabric over and then sew on the fold and then open that fold back up. So Mary, you're asking about the strength of the seam. Yes, it should be a pretty strong seam. It's a stretchy seam, which is always good for fabric like this. It also has a needle and that needle goes back and forth. It has the loopers. So I anticipate this to be as strong as any seam that I would sew on my sewing machine. Does it have 2 needle threads? No, it does not, but it certainly, as I'm pulling on it, seems to have good stretch, and I think should be fine on this. Now, if I were sewing, say, leggings, I would not use this stitch for the construction of the actual legging seams, because legging seams get a lot of pull, right? This on my sweatshirt here, not going to have a lot of resistance against it. It's a baggy sweatshirt. And, you know, it's more like decorative and just sewing a regular seam. So if you were doing leggings, I gave an idea in my post yesterday about how to first sew the seam on your sewing machine with a zigzag, and then coming back and flat locking for a decorative stitch. So for example, if you're sewing leggings, you don't have a cover stitch and you want this cool stitch look on your legging seams because it almost can double as a cover stitch. It's definitely a faux cover stitch look. Then I would sew the seams first before I actually did the flat lock stitch. Because do I think it's a strong stitch? Yes. Do I think it's strong enough for leggings that I'm going to be pulling on and off, exercising with, etc., all the things that we do in leggings? I don't trust it enough for that. So that is my, yes, I think it's strong. However, that comes with an asterisk, and I wouldn't use it on certain projects. Okay, so let's pull this open. This is looking so, so cute. Okay, and there is that seam open. And now we have, if I can find it, a sweatshirt with a middle and 2 sleeves. Okay, so let's back this up a little bit. Back this up so you guys can see, let's see me. Now that we're not working so close with the serger. Okay, so let's put the serger back together and sew the rest of this project. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is remove that foot. I'm going to put all my seams back to 4, and I might have to adjust a little bit, but we're going to start with that. We're going to use all these same threads, so I'll leave that, and I'm going to thread the right needle that I had unthreaded for this project, and I'm actually going to take it, it's right here, we're going to put it back in. Maybe if I can get it in there. Put it back in, so we have 2 needles. The rest of our project we're going to sew with regular serger seams. Okay. So I'm super excited. I'm sure a lot of you saw on my Instagram or other Instagrams that Brother is coming out with an air threading serger. It also has an amazing needle threading option, and I'm super excited about it. It also does a beautiful 2-thread flat lock. So I'm really looking forward to checking that out and hopefully getting one of those in my hands in the next few months, and then being able to show you guys all about that and not having to stick my thread through my little needle there anymore, and just being able to use the automatic threader. So great and easy. And now my machine is hopefully put back together. The other exciting feature about the new serger is that it won't sew if something is not right. So for example, if your presser foot is up, or that's the big one for me, it has like a light and it literally won't sew. So that's what I have ruined so many seams by not putting the presser foot down and then ending up with that really loose, wonky seam that is not fun. So I'm really excited about that feature. Okay, here, trying to find the front of my sweatshirt, which it is here. So I usually like to sew this in the open so that I can do this really easy and put this on, but I'm gonna try and stretch this. So I could get my measuring tape out and measure and get my 80% around, but I'm just trying to do this. So it's actually, we're gonna use almost the entire neckline. This was from a t-shirt that my husband gave me to cut up. And sometimes I turn them into shirts for the kids or shirts for myself. But today I saw this green color and I thought that would be really pretty to go with what I'm doing. And I didn't have anything good for the binding. All right, so I'm gonna sew this back into a circle. Hopefully our serger is all back in action. I could maybe turn that back to 6, although that you can sew with that either way. Oh no, I broke a thread. So we may be sewing this. We may not be, of course. Always, always, always. Okay, so it's my lower looper here. And I don't know why, maybe I should have turned the dial a few times. Okay, there it is, popping out for me. All right, so we're gonna try, put this one here, put it here, put it under the foot. We're just demonstrating flat locking, and next week we'll demonstrate the rest of the project. I don't know. Hang with me, guys. All right, so I'm going to turn that crank. It looks like it's stitching well. Of course, as soon as I go on fabric, it's going to freak out on me. Let's grab a scrap before I try again on the project, shall we? It's like my armpits are sweating. The stress of threading a serger, whew, gets to me. All right. So I need to tighten this one and loosen this one. It's working, it's just not, my stitch isn't super pretty because the loopers are a little bit off, but it's gonna work. So now let's see if we can sew this neck again. Okay, hopefully we have success. All right, so I've sewn the neckband back into a circle. I'm now going to pin it on. Hi, Valencia. So my Instagram is Life So Savory. So you can you can either search Emily Thompson on Instagram or you can search Life So Savory, and both will bring up my profile. So I posted a reel with using my flat locking the other day, and it turned out really good. And now I'm actually using flat locking in a project. Okay, so now what I'm doing is stretching this neckband along the edge, and I've got these long serger tails on here still. So I want to make sure that I incorporate those in my seam, because that's going to sort of lock in our flat lock stitch, which, by the way, looks so awesome on there. Let me grab more clips. Okay. And working back around to the front of this sweatshirt. So I put that seam in the back. And then we're gonna pin this around or clip it around. I personally love clips. I probably should have quartered it, but I didn't. So hopefully there's enough. This is why I just like to do it as I sew. But again, I need an open neckline for that. And I really wanted to sew all 4 of those seams with the flat lock before I put this neckband on, because I'm not confident with my flat locking later. I feel like I needed to do that all. Okay, so we got the neckband pinned or clipped on. I'm now going to sew it. So like any neckband, you're gonna stretch as you sew so that the band stretches the fabric. We don't want to stretch out the sweatshirt. I simply want to stretch the neckband to meet the sweatshirt. The sweatshirt is bigger than the neckband. Your neckband should be 80 to 90% the circumference of your t-shirt or sweatshirt or whatever you're sewing. And this, I would normally have a little bit of a thicker band, but this is because I picked this one off of a t-shirt. It's pretty thin, so I'm doing my best to not stretch it too thin and sew it on with, I'm not cutting any of the fabric off because it's already so thin. So we're just stretching it around, doing a narrow seam allowance, including those shoulder seams, these long tails. So I'm really trying to get a good bite out of those so that those seams, the flat lock seams, are really finished. And when we get back around, hopefully we have a good neck. While I'm thinking of it, if you're interested, tomorrow I'll be doing another live show on the Brother Sews Facebook page and Pinterest, and we'll be making a fun back to school project, so you can check that out. All right, so there's the neckband. It is thin. I hope it's not too thin, but you'll see later when I try it on. It looks cute. It's you know, this has a big neck, not a big neck, but it's not like a tight crew neck like this. So I think that looks cute. You can see how awesome my shoulder seams look on this project. And now the rest of this is gonna zip together. Okay, so sleeve cuffs. I wanna see if I wanna shorten this a little bit. I think I'm gonna shorten the sleeves. I believe I remember from the last time I sewed this, the sleeves are just a little bit long. So I'm just gonna cut off just over 1 inch before I sew the cuffs on. So I better do that to both sides before I forget, or I will have one sleeve longer than the other. You could do this exact with a rotary cutter on a sewing mat, but when was the last time you saw me sew something exact? Here's the 2 cuffs, okay? So we're going to open these up. We're going to fold it so the right side, which I've got to find, is on the outside. Okay, so the right side of the fabric is facing out. Now I've got it folded in half with the direction of greatest stretch going side to side. Again, this is just this old t-shirt that I cut up. And now I'm going to clip one clip here. This has a little bit of a stretch to get to the other side of the sleeve, but not huge. Definitely enough we can stretch it. Okay, so now we're going to stretch and sew the cuff on the bottom of the sleeve. You could do this after you sew the underarm and sew your cuff in a circle. I just like to sew it while it's open. Definitely not 100% right here. The serger thread broke again. Okay, we did it before. We can do it again. Why is this doing this to me? I don't know. What is this? Okay. Oh, that needs to come out. Okay. Make sure everything is in its right place. And bring the threads to the back. Turn this, close this, close this. Let's see what we got. Definitely feels like there's some tension under there. Oh, guys. We'll see what happens. Well, we can always save this project for next week, finishing this sweatshirt. All right, it feels good, but I will tell you, if it breaks again, I'm done. I'm done. Okay, let's try this again. Lining up the edge of the sleeve with the cuff. I wait usually until the needles have bit into the fabric, and then I can start stretching that cuff along the edge of the bottom of the sleeve. We have 3 layers of fabric here. Okay, 2 layers of cuff and 1 layer of the sweatshirt. I don't understand when it sews like totally perfectly and then all of a sudden it breaks when nothing has happened or different, but such is life. Okay, so there is 1 cuff. Looks awesome. Oh, Lois, thank you. The struggle is real. And of course, also for like days, weeks without it happening, and then I'm doing a live show, and of course, then it decides to break on me or be weird on me, but you guys are so patient, and it just shows that even those of us that sew all the time or like to sew fast or make sewing look easy, it's not always what it looks like. It can be a big mess. All right, so I'm gonna sew slowly until the fabric is under the needles. Then I'm gonna start pulling this cuff, stretching it along the bottom of the sleeve, lining up those 3 layers. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, oh, you have 2. I know, it does want me to have that. Lois, do you have a serger that does the 2 thread flat lock, or do you just have like this where it's the 3 thread? So anyway, that is because I'm into flat locking right now. That's what I'm excited about. Okay, I'm gonna sew the side seams. Because I already sewed the cuffs on, we are going to sew right from the edge of the cuff, and then we'll have to finish that raw seam, but that's easy. I do that all the time. We're sewing down the edge of the sleeve. I still have that pretty maxi lock nylon thread in there, so it actually, this is going to be my inside. The insides of my seams are going to be really pretty too. Remember, starting now, you can watch this show live on YouTube, on Facebook, and also I think, I have to go back and check, but I think I set it up to stream live in my Facebook group, which I've always just shared it to my Facebook group, but we've never streamed live directly there. So I'm excited to see, to go back and look, did it actually stream live to the Facebook group? Just another place that you guys can check this out. See it hopefully right away. All right, so there's the inside of that seam. It is pretty with that maxi lock thread. I usually only use that for like pajamas or things that's softer, but I'm going to enjoy it on this, and I didn't want to do it. Okay, so you've seen through your flat lock. Yeah, so I don't think on this one I'm seeing any light through it. I think I just had to play with my settings, because there were times where I didn't, if I wasn't taking enough of the fabric, like my needle was too, if your needle's too close to the edge of the fabric, then I feel like that's when you're seeing the daylight through it. So you really have to get a better bite out of the fabric with that needle. And then when you pull it open, that fabric really overlaps like this. And then hopefully you're not seeing any do it or any light through. So again, it was one of those things that I have tried before and kind of quickly gave up on because I didn't have success right away. And I wonder where my son, who has that same tendency, gets it. Why doesn't he keep with it? Well, maybe because I don't always either. But anyway, I'm going to be working on that. So the flat lock, I'm going to be checking out the blind hem. I'm planning to make sure I can use the gathering foot. Like, there are so many of those things I don't use, and I should. Okay, so let's take a look at the sweatshirt, how it's coming along. Oh, this is so cozy, you guys. I am wondering if it's, I made the medium because I know this has a little bit less stretch, but it's definitely going to be oversized. So we'll see if it's too oversized. But look at how cute it is. I got to put the bottom band on, then we're done. But I just wanted to take a look. So cozy, right? So anyway, remember, this is a free pattern. The link is in the comment section. It's also in the scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So if you want to take a look and grab this, it's super cute. And I have made this same pattern with waffle fabric, French terry. This one's sweatshirt fleece. I've used sweater fabric, but if it's really stretchy, you probably want to downsize, or definitely don't upsize because it got pretty stretched out. So just because the fabric was so stretchy. So think about that depending on what fabric you're choosing and what size you're using. So I've made this pattern in both smalls and medium. And like I said, I felt like because this didn't have as much stretch, I was going to make the medium. We'll see if I am happy with my decision or I feel like it's too big. Okay. So again, here's the awesome flat lock seam, which has made it like just a cool decorative stitch on there. And that's on all 4 of the shoulder seams. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is sew on the bottom. And I just took this t-shirt and I just cut a section of it. And I think, yeah, we can just stretch that. It's not even going to stretch that much. I didn't use the pattern piece for this because I thought, well, I'm just going to see what it stretches to. So this was a t-shirt of my husband. So it's a men's large that we're just using. I didn't cut the hem, but I cut right above the hem. So it's from the bottom of the t-shirt. We're going to line up those side seams. So you want to move this back so you can see the machine. Line up the side seams and check it out. So Patricia, yes, if you use this pattern and love it, I would love to see what you did with it. I'm always loving people's creations. This fabric is rolling. So yeah, make sure you share a photo with me of what you make with the free pattern. This one is so cozy. If you click the link that I've put there, you'll see a couple of versions that I made last year, and I wore them a lot. I will just tell you that. I wore them a lot, and I'm excited for this new one this year. This fabric is super cozy, and I have enough of it to probably still make my daughter a sweatshirt. So I'm excited about that too. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to be modeling this for you in just a couple minutes. I'll show you what the final result looks like, as long as my serger keeps going and we don't have any more weird broken threads. We're just going to zip around the bottom of this, and then we'll do a quick change. Actually, I can just throw it on over my t-shirt and I'll show you what it looks like. I'm super excited about it. I think these two greens go together really well, and that it's going to be a fun combination. Hi, Patty. Hi, Lucy. So fun to see some of you guys again. I took the summer off, except for I did do almost every month, even through the summer, I did live shows on the Brother page with Angela and myself, and we sewed some fun things. But I have not been live on my page probably since May, when things got crazy with the kids and school. But I'm excited to be back. And if you're just joining, I am live streaming on YouTube and Facebook, so you can catch me in either place, wherever you like to watch live shows. We're here. And I do plan on being live most Wednesdays. What day is it? Most Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. So don't miss that out. And also tomorrow morning, I will be live again on the Brother Sews Facebook page with Angela, and I'm going to be making a fun back to school project. So don't miss that. Lots of sewing happening this week. It's my kids' first full week back to school. So of course, they're going to be exhausted by the end of the day, or the end of the week. Last week, they only had 3 days. It was a good, just make sure I caught everything. It was a good ease into it. That looks great on the bottom. Okay, here we go. This is the moment of truth. Does this sweatshirt work? Is it as cute as I think it's going to be? I think yes, but this is what we have to see, the actual moment. How does it fit? Oh, I'm glad I shortened the sleeves a little bit. Okay. Oh, it's so cute and so cozy, you guys. It is great. It's a little bit sticking into my t-shirt underneath because I've got that fleecy sweatshirt part inside. But how cute is this? So we've got the loose sleeves. We've got the flat lock stitch here, which adds just a fun dimension. Same thing in the back on the sleeves. It's a good length for me. If you're taller, you might want to add, unless you want it to be a little bit shorter, you know, you can always just add an inch or so to the bottom. But I think it's perfect. It sits right on my hips, which is a great place for me to have. And it is perfect. So there you go. Free sewing pattern. Great tutorial on how to use a flat lock stitch. Or you can just go ahead and sew it up as directed in the tutorial. It still looks awesome. I have several of those as well. Love them. Or sew it up and then top stitch with a cover stitch or with a decorative stitch on your sewing machine. Any of those ways that you can also add a decorative stitch, but I'm just, again, playing around with flat locking, getting better at it, and trying to incorporate it into some projects. So there's the flat lock seam. It does not have any gaps showing in it. I'll give you a close-up again one more time of that flat lock seam. So you can really see that it is a way to sew an actual seam. Okay, so here's the flat lock seam. There's no light showing through it. It's nice and stable. And then on the back side, also as well, that ladder stitch, and it looks really secure. So I am pretty confident in this seam that it will hold. But again, you can see that with how loose this sweatshirt is, it's not going to get a lot of like wear and tear on the actual seam, right? Because it's so loose. So I still got some threads to clip, but there's the sweatshirt. There's a general idea. It's cute. It's adorable. Grab this free pattern. You'll love it. Your teenagers will love it. It's like a great one for any size, and it's so comfy and not fitted. So it works well with so many body types, and just is a great comfy sweatshirt for around the house or running errands. So grab this, download it for free, sew it up, and then make sure you share what you sewed, and I'll take a look. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back next week with another fun sewing project. I'm glad you joined me today, and I can't wait to see you next time. Have a great week. Bye.